Hello, everybody. How's it going? How's it going? So, you all, tonight, I want to make sure that we don't have any problems with the internet. I'm going to speak life into our internet. Thank you all so much for joining. Happy Saturday, and I hope that everyone is having a good day. So if you don't get to see me constantly today, you know why. It's because the internet has been acting up, and I want us to have a good show tonight. So please, you all, share the live with others. And definitely welcome Mexico in the house on the stage of Life in Haiti tonight. Hello, my brother. Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, everything is perfect. Thank you for having me, Marie.
Thank you for coming on. So you all, tonight we have a special guest. He is a brand new YouTuber who just became a YouTuber as of about a week ago. And before we get into this show, I want to ask you all to please share the live with others. And please show your face a little bit with the audience. So we kind of tag teaming with showing the face so that we can keep the camera going. Please introduce yourself, and after a little while, you can cut off the camera again to make sure we can keep the internet.
All right, so my name is Fernando Castillo. I'm 32 years old, and I am a deported dreamer. I grew up in the U.S. I lived my entire life in the U.S. since I was a baby. I was taken as an infant to the U.S., and I didn't get to know Mexico until I was deported during the height of Donald Trump's presidency, where I experienced basically a hate crime. I was persecuted out of the country because I was very critical of American foreign policies. I majored in what was Latin American history. I was also an activist for immigrant rights, and I supported basically Latin America. I put Latin American interest above that of the United States, and it didn't go well for me because of the racism that was going on at the time, and it's still going on, But like during the height of Donald Trump's presidency, it was really bad. Yeah, that's kind of essentially my
Hmm.
story.
Okay.
Are you still there, Marie? Hello? Hello? Marie?
Okay.
Okay.
Um, so we want to slow it down a little bit so we can get some people familiar with you. So
Okay.
I know that you were recently deported back to Mexico, and you were one that many consider part of the dreamer crowd. Can you
Yep.
share so you mentioned you ended up going to the US as a child. How old were you?
I was like 2 years old. I was approximately 2 years old. I was a baby. I don't
So
have
were your
any.
parents legal?
No, my family immigrated there without citizenship. The I guess like well, no, they didn't enter legally. Or, I mean, I really
All
don't
right.
know. No.
Okay. So are your parents still in the US?
Yes, my family's still in the U.S. The majority of my family's still living in the U.S. Like my
Okay.
family is divided though because all of my mother's family lives in Mexico and all of my father's family lives in the U.S. But I grew up
Mm,
with my dad's side of the family, and the majority of them
okay.
are U.S. citizens.
Okay. So lead us to a little bit of your life. What was your life like? Who is Fernando? I mean, tell people a little bit of background about you before we really head into what led into your situation.
Well, I was brought to the U.S. as an infant, like I said, and my upbringing was pretty normal. I guess it was kind of like that of any American, except that I was undocumented. I went to elementary school. I used to put up the American flag every day in the morning. because like I guess that's what they would do for like a lot of like honor students and all of that sort the thing. In middle
Hmm.
school, I was really into like anime and gothic music and punk rock, a lot of type of like rock type of music and everything of the sort. And I guess I started having some problems when I was in my adolescent. And I used to hang out with, I guess, like people who would be smoking pot and stuff. And I ended up getting involved in those types of things later on in my life, and it affected me because like immigration laws are very very strict when it comes to that. But at the time, I didn't know anything about that. I wasn't an activist when I was in intermediate school or in elementary school. I was just a kid who didn't know anything that was going on at the time. I was just living the life like a life like as that of any American citizen.
Thinking you were normal. I mean, pretty much similar to myself. So I definitely can relate.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever talk to you about your immigration status while you were living in the U.S., your daily life? Did anybody ever mention to you, this is your status and this is some things you don't want to get yourself involved in?
I didn't think it was such a big deal. I mean, I didn't. I mean, most people who live in the U.S. for a very long time, they don't think that deportation is ever going to happen to them. But I mean, like the U.S. government doesn't actually care, and that's something that is quite unfortunate. Like I do a lot of research on immigration policies, and like we are known here in Mexico as the lost generation, and this is from an article that was written back in, I think it was like 2017 during the Trump era, and more than 500,000 Dreamers have been deported to Mexico. I'm sure the numbers are probably higher if you count other different Latin American countries. That's something that doesn't really cross one's mind when we're living in the U.S. Like when I was living in the U.S., I didn't think about any of that. I was just like, I would go to school, I would go home, I would hang out with my friends, I would go to the movies, I would go to to rock concerts, and I lived a life like as if I was just like a regular American citizen, even though if I wasn't, and I didn't really question these things up until much later in my life. Not when I was like in elementary and middle school or high school, I didn't question these things. It didn't it didn't become important up until you become an adult, and then you're not able to get a job, and you're basically excluded from everything because everything that right wing media says about undocumented immigrants is a lie. Like we don't qualify for things like EBT, nor food stamps, nor welfare. Those are privileges that are provided only to U.S. citizens. And as undocumented immigrants, you're not receiving anything. Like I went to college in the U.S., but I paid for it. Like I went, and school is expensive. It's not like it's something cheap. Like I didn't get
So
anything from the government.
let me ask you, people want to know, they hear this guy's story, and I please you all, as you are watching, and I want to welcome everybody, Kay Miller, Arlene, Haitian Warrior King, Mr. Steele, Rebecca, each and every one of you all. I just want to thank you all. Son Lee, how's it going? And please share the live, you all, with others. Bella Gino, thank you for coming in watching. Share the live with others. It's about sharing real life experiences here. And a lot of us that traveled away from away from our country of origin at a young age, going to live in a country like America, when we share, bringing Fernando onto the show, it's really, really amazing. And I know we've had similar stories, yet he ended up in America, not choosing to be in America, growing up and thinking that, you know what, I'm just as a normal person. I'm just as normal as my peers. And then to find out, no, you're not. You have a line to stay in. So a lot of people want to know, please give this live a like, you all, as you come in. Give the live a like. Please share the live. Let's get more people on the live. And you all have questions, please, if you have young kids that are in the neighborhood, you may want to tell them about it. That's undocumented. because as we speak, we do have a lot of people that are waiting, they say, to come back into Haiti. Can you tell the audience what led to your deportation? What was your charge? Because my audience is pretty familiar with deportation because of,
Mhm.
my story. But people want to know, what is the story? How did you end up being deported? Okay.
Um,
What is the seriousness behind your deportation?
all right. Well, here's the thing. The seriousness about my deportation doesn't have to necessarily do with the crime that I committed. I guess you could say like crime in like quotation marks, because like I was deported over a misdemeanor. The thing is that like I was very critical of American foreign policies because what I was studying in college was Latin American history and Chicano studies. Chicano studies is basically like the history of Mexican Americans in the U.S., and we have a long history of abuses that the United States has caused in Mexico, because everything that is the Southwest, that used to belong to Mexico. That's stolen territory. That's why like the experience of Mexican Americans in the United States and Mexican immigrants is very different than like other groups from Latin America, because we have Mexicans who have been there for like generations, and some of them were annexed along with the territory that was stolen from Mexico during the 18th century. Okay, but like going back to how it is that I was deported, before I went to college, I used to hang out with a lot of like punk rockers and metalheads, and we used to use drugs together. But I got arrested once when I was 18 years old. And then after that, I stopped consuming drugs because I knew that my reality as an undocumented immigrant, like even small charges can get you deported. I wasn't deported when I was 18. So after that, I stopped using drugs for more than 10 years, and I started going to school. I went back to school. I went back to high school. I finished high school. I went to college. I graduated from college. I only needed one more year to graduate, but then, like when deferred action came out, when the Obama administration passed deferred action, I was denied DACA because of the misdemeanor that I had gotten when I was 18 years old. The thing is that during the 1988, there was a law that the U.S. government passed known as the Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988, and it was this law that was pretty racist and basically used as a way to massively deport undocumented immigrants for very minor crimes that have to do with drug use. Like the excuse of the U.S. government was that, oh, it's because like it's to fight the war on drugs, but that's not true at all, because U.S. citizens like smoking drugs are, well, when you smoke drugs in the U.S., you got a misdemeanor. All right, but if you're an undocumented immigrant, you get your charge is no longer a misdemeanor, if not an aggravated felony. So in immigration court, my small charge was not viewed as a misdemeanor, if not an aggravated felony, and that ended up affecting my, like me not being able to get deferred action. So I ended up getting really depressed because, like I worked really hard. I stayed clean for 10 years of my life. I went back to school. I was also an activist for a while with the Latino community in California, and none of that like mattered to the U.S. government. To the U.S. government, like they didn't care at all. Like none of my
Mm.
accomplishments are important to them. I needed one more year to graduate, and they didn't care. It's like, oh, you broke the law 10 years ago, so you can't qualify for DACA, and now you're smoking drugs again, so we're just gonna kick you out. I went to jail for like less than 100 days, but when I was in immigration, I spoke against the U.S. government because I thought I was able to change the world, but like that's not how things work. Like it's the government against you can't do anything against the government. They think that what they do is right, and it's not.
So you're telling me literally that your charge was possession of marijuana,
It was
which
a
led to
possession of
your
paraphernalia.
deportation.
I didn't even have marijuana on me. It was just the pipe. Those charges are considered a possession of paraphernalia, and yeah, like at the time I was going through a very difficult time because like I worked really hard to stay clean, and then all of a sudden like they're like, you can't get DACA because 10 years ago you were smoking drugs with your punk friends. So now none of those things that you're doing now, like, okay, you finished high school, you finished college, you need one more year to get your BA degree. The US government said, we don't care. you're an illegal alien, you broke the law 10 years ago, no DACA for you, and now you're smoking drugs again, so we don't want you here. And that was basically it. But yeah, like I got arrested a couple of times because I was just, it really got to me. I was very depressed at the time. I just didn't really know how to handle it all, and I didn't have the money to continue to go to the university, even though like I was about to graduate. Yeah.
Mm. So can you tell us a little bit about, I hear so much about Mexico, okay? And I living in Haiti, I know you've probably heard so much about Haiti. So I remember watching the news and knowing that I was coming back into my country, but I didn't really know much about my country. But
Mm-hmm.
I was in Texas prison with a lot of Hispanics, so I had a chance to pretty much get very familiar with the news about Mexico. I was constantly hearing about Mexico, and we know the dangers which are present in Mexico. What was your transition like? Did you have family members to return to in Mexico? What was it like?
Well, I had family members who I had just barely met. Like they're close family members. Like I had mentioned earlier, like all of my dad's families in the U.S. and all of my mom's family is in Mexico. Like my mom's family, they come from like a middle class background in Mexico, so they never had any need to go to the U.S. And the thing about Mexico is that like it isn't the way that the media likes to depict it. Like there is violence and there is crime, but there is also like a lot of wealth, and you have a lot of foreigners living in Mexico. Like there are communities of Americans, like a lot of retirees, they live in Mexico because the cost of living is really cheap. There's also a lot of tourists from like all over the place, and Mexico's economy, it's one of the it's I think like it's second place in all Latin America. But yeah, so my
Mm.
transition to Mexico, I came back to Mexico City with my mother's family. And Mexico City, you have like tourists from all over the world, and there's also like a lot of communities of foreigners from wealthy countries living here because it's cheap to live here. And there are some areas that are really, really, really nice over here. So that's kind of the thing about Mexico. It's like it really depends on where you are. Like not all of Mexico is like violence. Like a lot of the violence usually happens like either at the border or in like states in the country that are dealing with the drug war. But Mexico City is the capital, so right here it's like it's moderately safe, but it's still
Mhm.
there's still inequality, just like in all countries in Latin America. We have a lot of inequality and things going on, that are simply out of our control.
So, did you coming into Haiti? I wouldn't say I experienced a level of racism, but I experienced some discrimination being a deportee, being returned back to my country of origin. What was it like? I mean, are the dreamers embraced? Um,
In Mexico,
how is it? How does the people embrace you?
in Mexico, it really depends. Like there is racism and discrimination in Mexico because Mexico is a very diverse country. Like there is also like pockets of Afro Mexicans, and here's the thing about like Afro Mexicans, because the Afro Mexican community in Mexico, um, they were not added to the census up until 2015 because there was a lot of racism here. There is racism and there's classism because not everybody in Mexico like is poor. Like there are some people who have the same standards of living as in the U.S. It really depends on where you're at in the country. And we Mexican people are considered a biracial group. Like we are a mestizo country. And there's also like a lot of indigenous people, Native Americans, well, native to Mexico, they're indigenous peoples. And we have like 68 different groups. So there's a lot of diversity in Mexico. And, like I feel like I guess I kind of was accepted, but like at the same time, like I don't really like it's like we're neither from here and we're neither from over there because my upbringing was that of a Mexican American, of a Chicano. It's not really like the upbringing of people who grow up in Mexico. And Mexican society, they could be very opening to foreigners. So for me, it's like they'll accept me, but like I'm still seen as a foreigner, even though I'm born in Mexico. Like Mexican people see me as a foreigner, and because of mass deportations, there are currently like a lot of organizations of deported dreamers in Mexico. Like for instance, there's one called New Comienzos, which translates to new beginnings, and then there's another one called ODA, the Other Dreamers, which is a large group, a large organization of deported dreamers that end up like, I guess, building their own community here in Mexico. Like we have our own communities of deported people here. You know, we
Well,
even
I
have,
think that's pretty much the same thing. I'm not sure if it's like that in everywhere, but I'm pretty sure it is because in Haiti, a lot of us that were raised in the U.S. Is completely different. So I just want to be diverse, and if you all have any questions, you all please ask him. He has a brand new channel, you all, with some great videos. I would like for you all to please, it is free. Let's go and support our brother so that his channel can continue to grow. If my moderators have the link to his channel, please share the link to his channel. Very, very smart brother who, I mean, you are so filled with information that I'm like, whoa, okay. So I know that people can definitely enjoy your channel, especially people who are history freaks and activism. So you all go and please check out his channel. Please like, definitely share, and let's embrace him and get his channel to continue to grow. So,
yeah, and like
my brother. Mhm.
no, yeah, like I was saying, my channel has a focus on deportees and Latin American history, and I don't leave anyone behind. Like I also study the history of Haiti because like it was my major in college. My major was Latin American history, so I know the history of Latin American countries in depth. And like for instance, like a lot of Latin American countries, like we have a history of U.S. occupations and interventions that go all the way back to the 18th century. The thing is that the U.S. government doesn't want to take any accountability for anything that they have done here. That's partially one of the reasons why you have countries that are in Latin America that are not in favor of the U.S. Like, for instance, Cuba, Venezuela. Like they have histories. Like no country on earth is just going to wake up someday and say, "Oh, I don't like the U.S. for no reason." You know, like the U.S. did some terrible things during the 18th and 19th and 20th century when they went and invaded and installed puppet democracies in our countries. And that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of problems in our countries to begin with. But yeah, I focus on all of these things. I have academic sources for everything that I talk about, and I try to cater to all Latin American people because we all share the struggle of colonization, you know, and racism to an extent as well.
So I know we have a lot of Haitian people in Mexico. Can you
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
me, is there, I'm not sure if you have been around some of them. How are Haitians treated in Mexico?
I know
Can
that
you
the Haitian
tell me?
community,
Can
the
you?
Haitian. All right. Well, here's the thing. You know, like I wasn't in Tijuana for a very long time. Like I only stayed there for a couple of days, but I do know that there is a large Haitian community in Tijuana, which is a border town, bordered to the U.S. and Mexico, and they are accepted. They are accepted in the country more so than other immigrants from Latin America because they are trying to make a life in Mexico, and they're trying to make Mexico a better country, and they're living in Mexico, working for Mexican people, you know, and they're not just like trying to get to the U.S. because that's one of the things that a lot of Mexican people don't like. Like, but it really depends, you know, like there are problems here, and there are some people who are not good people, but there are also a lot of good people who do help out immigrants in Mexico. You have there's a Mexican American community in Mexico in the border town known as the Border Angels, and they always help out any type of migrant coming from anywhere in Latin America. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. Like you could be from you know like from Haiti or from Guatemala or whatever, and they'll give you like food and places to stay, and they'll try to help you. So you have a lot of them like living in the border town area. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the border angels.
Wow. Yeah, so, how are people paid out there working in Haiti? I mean, in Mexico. How do people get paid? What are the wages like? You mentioned Mexico is pretty cheap.
Mexico is cheap if you're coming from the U.S. because like dollars here in Mexico, that's like like all right, the minimum wage in Mexico for people who are not bilingual is roughly around 150 pesos a day, which is the equivalent to like $7.50. If you're a bilingual deportee, a lot of deportees usually end up working at call centers, and call centers pay anywhere from $5 an hour. So if you have if you know how to speak English, even if you don't have a degree, then Mexico is the place to go. There's a lot of people from Latin America who are now searching for the Mexican dream instead of the American one because the U.S. has very racist immigration laws and Mexico doesn't. Mexico, the government does allow people to come in here much more easily. So,
Hmm.
yeah, you can make if you don't know how to speak any English, then you could make 150 pesos a day like any other Mexican person. But if you know how to speak English and you're from Haiti or some other place, and you could try to come work at a call center, and right there, like they'll pay from $2 to $5 an hour. They're American companies.
Wow. Wow.
Uh-huh.
So
So
let me
like some
ask you,
people,
as a dreamer, when you are returned back to Mexico, are there resources available for you all?
there are some resources and there is some help. It's just that a lot of that stuff is fairly new because the Mexican government for a long time, like they weren't really helping out any deportees. So a lot of people would oftentimes return back to the U.S. But right now, with the new government of AMLO, like there is some help for deported dreamers. Like there are organizations, and if you're a bilingual person here, like chances are that you could be able to work for, I don't know, like in the tourist section because Mexico is it's on one of the top 10 most visited countries on earth. So you get a lot of tourists here in Mexico. And I live in Mexico City, so it's like I always bump into Americans, Canadians, people from Spain, people from all over the place. So it's like I think it really depends on which country you're going to. There are people who have faced tragedies in Mexico, but then there's people who also manage to become successful. I know a lot of deported dreamers that are making dollars in Mexico. There's actually also an organization called Cambly. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's kind of like an online tutoring service, and you speak to people from different parts of the world, and you get paid in dollars. So that's also an option that a lot of bilingual deportees are basically taking in place of returning to the U.S. So it isn't something that is impossible. Yet the standards of living here, it really depends. It really, really does depend on a lot of different factors and circumstances.
Hmm. So, my brother, I want to ask you to show your face somewhat, because I know my peoples, they're pretty familiar with seeing face. So, you can kind of show your face for a little bit. For those who are watching, one of the reasons why you are not seeing our face, we're pretty much tag teaming. I'm not sure if it's with all the rain, but the internet on my part has just been terrible, which is why you haven't gotten any uploads. So I advise him to not really, really show his face as much so that we can keep the internet going. So you all, you get to see his face somewhat, and you may continue.
But yeah, like I said before, though, like some people are choosing to stay in Mexico from, especially if they're coming from like countries that are dealing with a lot more like poverty. I guess like you have a lot
You
of
could turn off your camera because I see it as soon as
okay. Like right now there are also people from like El
okay.
Salvador and Guatemala who are also choosing to stay here instead of going to the U.S. Like the policies that the United States has set historically on Latin American countries, it's so that they could be able to control our resources. That's primarily one of the reasons why immigration is very difficult for people to immigrate to the U.S. But yeah. Okay, I'm reading right here that it says that 9,000 or more Haitians are at the border. Yet the U.S. is putting them on flights to go back to Haiti. In all honesty, I feel that, like, I know that the hardships in Haiti are probably a lot worse than here in Mexico, and
Mhm.
like there is an option here to stay in Mexico, and I recommend that. Like I sent earlier today a link to Marie on the Haitian community in Mexico right now. There's a Haitian community. It's called Little Haiti, and they're in TJ. So
Mhm.
that's also an option for you guys. I welcome you with open arms. But yeah, just always be careful. Always be careful though, because Mexico, there are people who are very dangerous, and there is also racism here. But that isn't all
That's
of the Mexican people. So yeah, I don't discriminate, and I support you guys as well.
thank you so much. So we're gonna go into the audience because we've ignored our peoples. I've ignored my peoples all night. But we're gonna try to find some questions. So if you all have questions and maybe have comments, you may do so at this time. My sister Arlene said immigration laws needs to be revised. Needs to be revised. Definitely, I think so because when you have people that are being deported and returned to a country that they know nothing about, and they traveled with their parents and really had no choice, got accustomed to a life, and then to get snatched from it just for something as simple as possession of paraphernalia, and that's got to be difficult. And now it's pretty harsh because when you look at before Trump, the situation, it wasn't like that. They gave people a chance and an opportunity. I want to share that during my immigration stay, I stayed there with a lot of women, Fernando.
Uh
And
huh.
one of the things that I noticed was that the whole room, 90% of the room were Hispanic. And I came out of Texas. Where did you come out of? California?
Yeah, I was in California. I lived in Las
Okay.
Vegas for a little while also, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't that long. I lived the majority of my life in California, Orange County
You
to be.
know, so what I think is Hispanics are targeted in areas like California and Texas a lot. You got, I'm speaking for Haitians. I see Haitians from New York, New Jersey, Miami. Those Haitians are targeted harder because the community there is bigger than the average state. So one of the things, hold on, let's continue with the. It says Bello Gino says that's true, even when they tax immigrants, dreamers. So before I lose my thoughts, you mentioned about the call centers, right?
Uh huh.
That was one of the things that kind of caught my attention to your new channel. So you all please go out, check out his new channel. It is free to subscribe. So let's subscribe to this brother to see him grow. His channel is just 1 week old. You mentioned call centers, right?
Uh
I
huh.
know a lot of call centers are in Haiti. Do you think that a lot of, and for my peoples, this is just my opinion, this is not facts. Do you think that a lot of deportation, especially with these dreamers, were to, how do I say it in plain words? It was in a way to help the U.S. too, to be able to have business overseas and have people that was familiar with those business to be able to take care, to make more money. That's the thing. That's the reality of it. People, businesses are able to make so much more money having call centers in India, the Haiti, DR. Mexico, because if they were in the States, they'll have to pay some type of wage. So you looking at them moving out of the States and coming into Mexico or Haiti, if they were paying an employee $10 an hour, and this is just minimal speaking, okay? We shooting out a number. They come to Haiti and pay you $3 an hour. I'm unsure what it would be like. What is your opinion on that? Why are
That
there
is
so many call centers?
there is a there's a business incentive to when it has to do with call centers, and a lot of the deportations, mass deportations, does has to do a lot with cheap labor. For instance, we are cheap labor, and that's just a reality. And I know a lot of immigrants, they like the U.S., they want to live in the U.S., they want to have that American dream and everything. But our reality is that we have a history, and the U.S. has a history of invading our countries, toppling our governments, installing puppet democracies, and basically the government, like, they see us as just cheap labor, and as if though our lives have less value than that of somebody born in the U.S. So unfortunately, that is very true. That, like, one of the reasons that one of the things that fuels deportations, mass deportations, does has to do with the call center industry. That's something known as outsourcing, and I recommend the book Deported Americans. It talks a lot about that. It talks about how it is that mass deportations and mass incarcerations is closely tied to the type of economic incentives that businesses have. Because the large number of people working at call centers, like, are people who are deported from the U.S., like, and they need workers down south, because from a business perspective, the U.S. government or these very large businesses, they rather have you working in your own country for $2 to $3 than to have the U.S. government pay you $10 to $15 an hour. So it's business for them. It's business for them. And because the cost of living for instance, in Mexico, the cost of living, if you make $3 to $5 an hour, that's a lot better than making 150 pesos a day. So to them, it's like it's balancing everything out. But in reality, we are cheap labor. We're cheap labor.
And do you think we're really that is why it's so easy for the US to push us out so quick, because they have bigger plans for us up ahead. I don't know, but I
Well,
just think that because even in DR, you have a lot of people that were deported back either from Haiti or surrounding islands that ends up there, and they're the ones that take care of their call centers.
Well, look, here's the thing about it. You're going to have to look at everything from a very historical perspective. The history of Latin American countries, like, I'm going to focus right now a little bit on Mexico. It has to do with
Mhm.
colonization. And for instance, we have to go all the way back to the 18th century. There was something known as manifest destiny. Manifest destiny was a white supremacist philosophy that said that the United States was ordained by God to rule from that I mean, not the United States, that white Americans were ordained by God to rule from sea to shining sea. So that was one of the main reasons why the United States went in, invaded Mexico, and stole our territory. And then it goes all the way back to the Monroe Doctrine. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the Monroe Doctrine, but the Monroe Doctrine basically was placed during the Roosevelt era of the 18th century. And what that stated was that no countries outside of the Americas are able to interfere in Latin America except for the United States. And the United States did that as a way to be able to siphon off a lot of the resources in Latin American countries, including keeping us indebted to foreign powers. Because I know from the history of Haiti, Haiti was one of the first free slave colonies that revolted against the French and such. And then after that, for doing that, you guys were indebted. I think you guys are still in debt. Like, why do you guys have to pay a debt for wanting to be free? It's BS.
This a different subject tonight's about you, my brother, because we get in that subject. Yeah, I have to pull me off the stage because I still have to be like, because you could be an extremist when you start thinking about the hardship that us Haitian people and as a country have faced from the beginning, of calling ourselves Haitians.
No, yeah, and the thing about immigration is that these policies are very hypocritical and very racist, because the thing is that American citizens are not, like, those laws don't apply to U.S. citizens. Like, you have a lot of Americans living outside the U.S., and those immigration policies do not apply to U.S. citizens. An American can come and go to Mexico whenever he wants, and the Mexican government is forbidden from saying anything to Americans here. And because of the necessity that people have, like people who are living like in extreme poverty, because there's also extreme poverty in Mexico. Like there's classism because Mexico is a very, very, very large country. So there is wealth, and there's a lot of wealth and equality in the country. And there are some people also living with almost nothing, like living in like little shacks, and then there's also people here in Mexico who live as if though they were in the United States, and you look at the discrepancy and the kind of levels of inequality here, and they're very visible. You got me? But like when going back to the topic of immigration, though, like the Mexican government isn't allowed to massively deport American citizens who are living here. And you do have a lot of Americans living here because of the cost of living. Like if, like for instance, like you come here with a couple $100,000, like, and that's gonna last you for years, decades, and it'll last you a lot more than if you were in the United States. Because the thing about the U.S. is that it's expensive to live over there. Like $25 here in Mexico, you could buy $100 worth of food. Yes, it is.
Wow. And $25 here would buy you something that'll cost you $25 in the US. In Haiti, definitely get ready to say it'll cost you about $60 US, which is very depressive. And that's something that a lot of times when I'm out and I'm going shopping, it's something that I could never understand, just how expensive things are with the economy in our country. So let's go back to the audience a little bit. Hello, Marie, new guest. How's it going, my sister? Peace Chef says, hello, Marie. How are you doing? It's been a while. Nice to hear you talk about this. That's terrible. America's true colors are coming out more and more everywhere. And yes, a lot of people are buying properties. I'm pretty sure you're saying outside of the US. A lot of people are moving out of the matrix, as my brother Taylor May calls it. Peace Chef says to Mexico specifically now. Wow. America has so much blood on their hands. Arlene Way says, at K, I'm multitasking, says, get my, okay. This is a conversation. So Deja Amora says, hello all, this is a serious situation at the border. Yes, it is, you all. This topic is a very, very serious topic. I'm not sure if you all are pretty familiar with it, because I know a lot of people don't really watch the news. But this topic has been a serious topic, I want to say, for a while, at least for the last 5 years. And the effect that deportation has on many people, I don't think people understand just the extent of it, because some people whose child get deported fall into depression, and before they can get here to visit their child, they are coming in to bury that child. I mean, the way the US is, no one can tell them what to do. My channel, my brother, I always say, for every story that we put out, for every project that I do, it is to really encourage the youth, to encourage somebody, to inspire them. There are many dreamers that are either fighting to get their paperwork, waiting on their paperwork, wishing to get, whatever the situation is. And it's not just for Mexicans. We have a lot of Haitians right now in the US just qualified for TPS status. And we want to say thank you, Lord, for that, and give big congrats for those that wanted, those that were young, that, that left out with mom and dad. What is some advice that you have for people? What are some of the things that you want to share as far as how they should behave and what they should not take for granted? Because I don't think we had people that were telling us this, or it wasn't a time like this where we can just watch somebody on YouTube that reminds us that we are not American and should not live like a normal American.
Was that question for me, or was it for sister to sister?
For you. No, just for you. Sister to sister is, she made a comment, but I'm saying it's for you.
Oh, okay.
And you can think about it too. I mean, I just want you to like give out a statement. You could think about it, and I'll roll through the audience some so we can get the audience involved. Spend
I
some
think,
time with.
well, here's my advice, like on people from like Haiti or other countries that have it much harder. Like the world is very big. Like the United States isn't the only option. Um, right now, Brazil has one of the top economies in Latin America. Argentina, Mexico, Chile is also a pretty good, decent economy. So it, but yeah, like that's not like the U.S. I think that like the better option would be to try to empower people who live down south, and that's what I'm trying to do as well. Is it possible for me to read a chapter from this book?
Yes. Hold on one second. I'm gonna get right to you as soon as we get some of the audience comments, and
Okay.
then definitely I will let you do that. Sister to sister, hello. How's it going tonight, Marie? As you speak now, 9,000 or more Haitians are at the border, Del Rio Bridge in Texas. Sadly, the U.S. will be putting them on flights to go back to Haiti. Most have crossed many countries, risked their lives. I'm pretty sure went hungry, risked so much. That is exactly why we need to work on making Haiti a much better place so that people will not be trying to leave. We have so many Haitian people who are constantly in turmoil. They want to come back home. And because of the level of security in our country, it makes people somewhat afraid. It makes people somewhat evasive. It makes people not want to come back home. And in that, you got so many people trying to find life and just to be disappointed. What happens is with those 9,000 people that they are trying to bring back to Haiti, really Haiti cannot receive them because 100% of those people probably have sold everything that they had to make it to where they are. And imagine them being deported back to Haiti just with their hands and foot. So just keep on praying for people all over the world. I know that it is not just Haiti that is facing a difficult time, but definitely I'm pretty sure. Let's pray that something changes too overnight. It's good to hear that people in Haiti can find a good job. From Marie Nuguez, sister says so. Now the U.S. will start deportation flights to Haiti on Sunday. Wow. That's sad.
Hello.
I'm right here. I
Oh,
was,
I
I
wanted
was
to.
more under. Okay, yes, you may read your statement. Yes.
All right, but before that, like I wanted to add to that, like, um, what is it called? Oh dang, it just slipped my mind right now. Oh yeah, like, I was gonna say that the U.S. has plenty of money for deportations because, but they don't have any money to support our countries. You know, they'll have money to go start wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but they don't have money to feed the poor and the homeless and all the countries that they have harmed. You know, so it's a very hypocritical stance when it comes to immigration. Like, because it costs them a lot more money to kick somebody out of the country than to actually keep them inside. But it has mainly to do with white nationalism and white supremacy. And unfortunately, since people from who are Haitian, like you guys could I don't know if you guys kind of like connect with the African American community, but there's a lot of racism towards people who are black. You know, so yeah. All right, I wanted to read this part right now. It's from the book. Here, I'm gonna turn it on for like 2 seconds, just so you guys can see which book I'm talking about. It's called "Deported Americans," and I'm gonna read a small paragraph on what is it called? Call centers, okay, and how it is that we are being exploited. All right, so this part right here says, in Mexico alone, call centers are a $6 billion industry. In 2014, corporate consulting from Frost and Sullivan estimated that Mexico had over 85,000 outsourced call center workstations, each staffed by 2 or 3 shifts a day. In the state of Baja California, nearly 10,000 people are employed in call centers, nearly half are deportees. Teletech, one of the world's largest global outsourcing firms with an annual revenue of $1.2 billion, operates 3 call centers in Mexico, where it employs thousands of people to handle customer service for American companies like Time Warner, AT&T, and Dish TV. This billion-dollar industry industry's dependence on a steady stream of deportees is cause for concern. Okay, so Jill Anderson argues transnational call centers that serve U.S. clients have a vested interest in the current numbers and nature of deportations by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Sociologist Tanya Golash-Boza links the rise in deportation to the global economic crisis, although she admits that it is difficult to substantiate the claim that corporate profit is the primary reason for mass incarceration or mass deportation. She notes that deportation has fueled the growth of call center industries in countries that receive high numbers of deportees. Corporate interest in ensuring high rates of deportation could shape future immigration reforms. So that's also one of the things that fuels deportation, is what they're saying. And some of these people that I mentioned are lawyers and specialists who are in immigration policies. So yeah, it's a book that I highly recommend for bilingual deportees, as it could be able to empower people in your own country. You know, maybe one day start like, I don't know, like a revolution and unify all Latin America. You know, like the Che Guevara dream.
Wow. Sister to Sister says Marie Fernando is on spot when he's talking about facts about the history of the U.S. Sadly, most people don't want to hear the facts. Yannick Ramirez, welcome Yannick. And if anyone is watching who have yet to subscribe to Life in Haiti, you all kindly become a new subscriber. If you've yet to give this video a like, please give this live a like. Please share the live with others. Please share the live. And please share the link to Fernando's channel. His channel is called Exile El Deportee. So please, you all, he's new. He just started his channel a week ago. And he's very informative, very thorough, and he's doing a good job. Good job. Awesome story. So please give him the support. Yannick says, oh, you have to give me assistance here because I cannot read in Spanish. So could you translate for me?
Okay, it says right there, ¿y qué importa la razón la cual él ha sido deportado? Si ya está deportado, no tiene sentido preguntarle. Todos saben, cualquiera que rompe... Okay, he's saying that what is the reason for them to asking me about why I was deported? That there isn't any reason to ask me that, because anybody who breaks the law in the U.S., DHS doesn't care. And those are very sensitive and personal issues, I guess. But the thing about like immigration policies is that they have a history of racism. So going back on this topic of immigration, for instance, the process of deportation actually started during the 1920s. In 1921, the National Origins Act was passed, and what the National Origins Act was basically for, it evolved from something known as eugenics. Does anybody know what eugenics is? Eugenics has to do with it was a racist science that existed during the 19th century, which stated that white people were inherently superior than people of color. And that was one of the reasons why the U.S. government started to deport people. But before that, there was no such thing as deportations. And the thing is that immigrants, they want to become American, but they don't know the history of how the United States came to be. And it is the truth. And I don't know who, somebody commented earlier that people don't want to know the truth. But in order for you to be able to create change, you have to know the truth. You have to know what's going on. All right. For instance, when Ellis Island, you got the Statue of Liberty. It wasn't like for everyone. Okay, that's what people get wrong. It was intended for white Europeans. Like the U.S. has had very racist policies when it comes to immigration to try to keep the United States as a predominantly white country. You had things like the Chinese Exclusion Act. In Mexican American history, you had something known as Operation Wetback. People who were born in the United States of Mexican descent during the 1950s were deported so that white people were able to get jobs. This is something historic. The term wetback was actually quoted by the U.S. government during this time period, and there was mass deportations of people of Mexican ancestry, and it didn't matter if you were born in the United States. So that's something that a lot of Latinos, they don't want to acknowledge. And the thing is that the U.S. government, they don't give this kind of information out. Like my major was Latin American history. That's why I know this stuff. And I'm trying to make it common knowledge so that there is change someday.
Wow. And I want you to know if we get a Spanish question, and I thank you for those that does speak Spanish that come and ask a question. Gracias, todas que. How do you say ask a question in
Hacer
Spanish?
preguntas en español, que si tienen preguntas en español que las puedan hacer y yo se las puedo contestar.
Gracias. Pour tout le monde, moi, tout, moi, je salue nous parce que je ne pas venir là pour quitter mon parler espagnol, anglais et pour pas saluer tout le monde, moi, tout en créole. So, I said, I can't come here and have you speaking Spanish or speaking English and that I don't greet my Creole speaking people. So, if you want at any time, you can make it versatile. I'm not sure if you invited some of your audience. You are able to also answer the questions in Spanish. You don't speak Creole, but people, this is information that we need to get out. People should know about. The young, they definitely should know about it. So definitely, you may continue.
All right, I'm going to answer the question. It says that times have changed. That Latinos are the biggest minority group. Yes, they're the largest minority group in the country. The thing is that they are not people who are empowered. I mean, Mexican Americans have been in the U.S. a lot longer than any immigrant group because the Southwest used to belong to Mexico. During 1846 and 1848, the United States invaded Mexico's territory after Mexico became an independent country, and they stole half of Mexico's territory. You will never see a Mexican American president. I mean, it's more likely to have for the United States to have a second black president than a Mexican American president because of the fact that they don't want that territory that the United States stole from Mexico to return to Mexico. Do you get me? Like, yes, we're a large minority, and people who live in the U.S. do have, I guess, better standards of living than people who live in Latin America. But at the same time, it's like the white Anglo establishment is power. Like you're not going to see somebody like Hugo Chavez or Fidel Castro or Che Guevara in the White House ever promoting like, hey, let's give everything back to Latin American countries because that doesn't benefit the United States. Ruthless capitalism, yes, it doesn't benefit the United States. You could live in the U.S. Like the U.S. government will allow you to live in the United States so long as you're not questioning the white establishment and the status quo. If you look at everybody who's in Congress or in the Senate, they're like 100%, 99% are white. 99%. Yes, you'll have Latinos over there, but what are they doing? They're working like the jobs that nobody wants to do. They're doing service industry. They're working at McDonald's. They're, cutting grass, mowing the lawns, taking care of children, that doing domestic work. That's what they're doing. They're not like running for president. And if they weren't, they can't say anything. They'll have to be like Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is completely against illegal immigration, and he's a descendant of people from Cuba. So the U.S. government, what they do is they try to place a lot of disinformation on people who are of Latin American origin living in the United States. And unfortunately, Latinos in the U.S. oftentimes will put the United States above Latin America. Like when I was inside immigration, and I don't know if this happened to Marie also, like you have a lot of Latinos working for ICE, like being like, we don't want you here. And they don't identify as Mexican. They won't identify as Puerto Rican. They'll identify as American, even if they happen to have like immigrant, like family background,
Wow. Well, you speaking all facts, my brother. Salab Dio, c'est toute vérité. Very, very true. But those are things that a lot of the times we really, really don't want to face. But hey, I have a comment on here that says you should be you could be a university professor.
So, I am a professor. I teach English, but like.
Oh yes. Tell us, what are you doing now in Mexico? Deportees making a difference, you all. So what are you doing now in Mexico? How are you using English, the skill?
I teach English in Mexico City. I wrote a book on my experiences.
So do you have your book that you could show to the audience? I'm not sure if you have it for sale.
I haven't published it yet. Like the publishing cost is very expensive. Like that's actually
Okay.
one of the reasons why I started a YouTube channel, because like I try to like I sent out my manuscript to several like publishing companies, but either they were too expensive,
Mhm.
or like they ended up like saying giving me an excuse for why they wouldn't publish it. And right now, on my YouTube page, I also started a Patreon so as to try to be able to collect funds so as to be able to publish my book, because it could cost nearly 2,000. It's from anywhere from 2,000 to $3,000 or more in order for
Wow.
the
Well,
public.
I'll tell you what, Mr. Fernando, being the face of life in Haiti, I am in contact with a lot of different people from different areas. And I do have someone that I think I can contact that could give you a major push on that. That is who is a writer and is into all of that. So I will give them a call and see if they will be willing to assist you in that.
I would really appreciate that, because like even though I work as an English teacher, like it's been very difficult for me personally, because I since I'm very like politically conscious on a lot of these
Mm.
topics. When I came down to like Mexico, I tried building dissidence and sedition against a lot of the inequalities that the United States is starting in Latin American countries. And what ended up
Mm.
happening was that I ended up getting fired from a lot of these call centers. I worked at a call center for a while, but I ended up getting kicked out of the or fired from the call center because I was like giving all this type of information to people working there, bilingual deportees, and
Wow.
it's not beneficial for the United States. It's not, like they want cheap labor. They want cheap labor, like they don't care. They'll have money
Wow.
to deport you. They'll have billions of dollars to build a wall, but they won't have any money for people who are suffering. They don't care about that. That's not important.
Bello Gino. You carried five people, ruthless capitalism. I see companies funding politicians to pass a certain immigration laws. Injured construction workers get deported to avoid paying. Wow. Wow. Hmm. Danielle Riddle, you carried 10 people, 10 people. Thank you so very much, my sister. And this is really, really my biological sister. Thank you, sis. God love you. Tizo says the law started with Obama. Trump just followed. Wow. But wasn't it under Obama that he allowed dreamers to stay? Correct?
Obama Obama passed deferred action, but Obama is actually he ended up deporting more people in the history of the United States, even more people than during Operation Wetback. But it goes even further back than that. That's why people need to know your history. You have to know Latin American history, and that's the thing about the U.S. You have a lot of Latinos over there, like somebody mentioned before, but they don't know anything about their history. Like you could go up to somebody, even if they live in Mexico, and like ask them, "Hey, when did the Mexican American War happen?" Or do you know who Luis Lopez Tijerina is? Like a Chicano activist of the 1960s. Or what is the Chicano movement? They're not going to know. They're not going to know.
Well, that's
Like a lot of that information
join the
isn't given.
crowd here. Yeah, yeah, join the crowd here. I think is it how's the education? How is schooling in Mexico?
There's a lot of classism. There's people who have a lot of money in Mexico, and they could be able to get quality education. And then there's people who have no money and who, you'll have children working in the fields. Like there is a very obvious level of inequality. And typically the people who are usually worse off are people who are either Afro descendants, like Afro Mexicans, or full-blooded natives, like full-blooded indigenous Mexicans, because there are different communities in Mexico. We have 68 different languages spoken in Mexico, and these are like full-blooded, like Mexican Indians. Like some of them don't even know how to speak Spanish. Some of them will speak like Nahua or Otomi, or like what is it called? Like different types of languages that exist over here.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Charles says there are so many Haitians stuck on the U.S. Mexico border right now. Y'all, one of the things that get to me is the US knowing everything that's going on in Haiti that has just happened, especially being affected by the recent earthquake. I do, and someone, an officer used to tell me, Sambilisa, feeling is not a fact, okay? But I think it should be made a fact that if a Haitian person traveled all the way from Haiti, and got to the border into the US, I think there should be considerations there for them to stay. Now, may I ask, recently Haiti, definitely the south of Haiti, was affected pretty badly, and we lost a lot of citizens, with due to the earthquake. Yet I know that Mexico also just had a recent earthquake. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Were you affected? Was your family affected?
Thankfully, I wasn't affected. I mean, like there was an earthquake, but it wasn't as bad as the one that happened in 2017. I was actually deported in 2017, and I experienced that very big earthquake, and there was
Mm,
people who died. Like there was a lot of buildings that were destroyed. So yeah, like I think that the one from 2017 was much worse than the one that we just had recently.
mm.
But yeah,
Wow. So Mexico have frequent earthquakes also?
oh yeah, we have a lot of frequent earthquakes over here in Mexico City. Uh-huh. Mexico City is like earthquake capital of the world. Yep, it's
Oh,
bad.
so be very, very careful there. Sister to Sister says the biggest mass discrimination in the US is the inactivity of granting of dreamers full legal status. You all, if you've yet to give this video, this live a like, please give the live a like. Definitely share the live. The science of neonism begins with people believing they are number one. Shay Reed, hello, my sister, and thank you so much for joining me live tonight. Well, times has changed since Latinos are biggest minority group now in America. Wow. This Bella Gino say this brother knowledgeable and woke as well, get it. Um,
All right, thank you.
Shay says, well, Biden's speech is letting white people know that the will have to work with Latinos and Black people, or at least there are worries. Look up the speech. Most reason they're deporting African. Hold on. Compared to the border situation right now, it shows Black people are not a part of America agenda regarding immigration. Wow. So how has immigration been as far as dreamers coming into the country right now?
Going into the U.S. or Mexico?
Mexico.
Well, a lot of dreamers that are deported, like some of them do go back to the U.S. eventually. Like I said, like Mexico, like there's like different levels of, I guess, like different class societies here. And some people do have a lot easier to return to the US, especially if you have like close family members. And the thing about like Latin American people who live in Latin American countries, even though some people are aware of a lot of the injustices the United States has caused, we have family members who live in the US. So that also kind of changes the realities of the United States, because a lot of immigrants, a lot of dreamers who are still in the US, like they don't want to turn against the United States because they want to live in the US. Like a lot of them don't have any intention of returning back to Mexico, nor returning back to Haiti, nor Honduras, nor any of these other countries. And what needs to happen
Mhm.
with dreamers still in the US undocumented, they have to demand the United States government to pay reparations, and they have to wake up from that little bubble and thinking that they're like, okay, yeah, and I understand this also because I grew up over there, so it's like I know the experience of dreamers, and I also know the experience of people who are deported, and a lot of dreamers, like, they want to be American, but like they're not looking at all the damage that the United States has caused in our countries, and they have to, in order for there to be change, there has to be accountability. The United States can't be like saying, oh, we're a victim and 9/11 this and 9/11 that, and not look at all the harm that they have done to all of these countries. No country on earth is just going to wake up someday and just say, dang, I hate the United States for no reason. I'm living all the way over here in Indochina, or I'm living all the way like 10,000 away, 10,000 miles away from the United States, and I'm going to go bomb them for no reason. No, the United States went in there and they caused some sort of harm and suffering through their foreign policies, which led to those actions. Okay, no one on planet Earth is just gonna just and why? All right, think about it like this: why are they targeting the United States in particular if they're so benevolent? You know, they've done a lot of things and they have to take accountability in order for there to be change.
Hmm. Jessica Foston says, I'm going to be honest. The USA don't like Haitians, so they will always find a way to send people back to Haiti. When we speak of Haiti, and people may not like this statement, it's not just the US who does not like Haiti. Eh ben, c'est l'Amérique de Haïti. Regardez la France. When you look at France, I feel like the state our country is in many ways, it is as if every day we are targeted because somewhere somebody has it written in stone that they shall pay for defeating our most powerful army. Okay. And to today, you see the traces of that Independence Day that I think the only country in the world that celebrate Independence Day and New Year's Day on the same day. It's not just the US. I think number one, France have, they've had their hands in the way that Haiti is. And if you ask me, I do not think that Haitians should be held accountable to learn to speak French. French is a beautiful language. It is not a language that I am against people learning. However, the education level, the percentage of people that are educated in Haiti is not that high. And we spend more than 75% of our days at home. We're speaking Creole. Creole should be acknowledged and Creole should be speaking. It should be learned. And all of the French should just be something extra because children already have so much daily stress. It is difficult for the child to go through all of that at home, speak Creole at home, all of the political, civil instability, and then still expect them to learn in a language that mom and dad cannot read or write, that mom and dad have no idea of much about, besides that they should speak it because that is what people tell them to do. Tizo say Haitians, etc., are stuck places because Obama made deals with other countries. Then Trump come in and block a lot of those deals. Wow.
I'm reading right here. It says there needs to be a balance of power, and yeah, I believe there does have to be a balance of power, and the United States has to. I think the world. It's time for the world to change and not just have like they have to limit the power that the United States has because there is an abuse of power that they have. Like nobody in the world has ever been able to hold the United States accountable for anything. And like how Marie mentioned it earlier, like no one can say anything to the U.S. You can't say anything to them. If you question them, then they view you as a radical or as somebody who is a threat to the United States, simply for wanting to make the world a better place and putting, like other countries or other people above American interest.
Wow. Well, my brother, you made a powerful statement. I have been live over an hour with you. Definitely is a great live. I want to invite you back onto the show. We can speak on more subject. You're well informed, very well spoken. And if anyone have a question before he leaves the stage, please feel free to ask. If you have comments, please feel free. Kindly, you all stop by, visit his channel. It is free to subscribe. Give some people reasons, and what will you be doing with your channel? What are some of your goals before we get out of here?
I plan on making videos relevant to Mexican history, Mexican American history, Latin American history, immigration, and anything that has to do with like the struggles of people of Latin America. Also like pointing out, I guess, like what is the reality also of life as a deportee. Because part of my if you go on my profile for my YouTube channel, it says right there, life after deportation, and what it is that we as deportees have to face afterwards. Because like our like
Mhm.
life continues even after the United States. Some people in Mexico choose to stay in Mexico. Some people are deported, they don't return. Others do. That's really, like, I guess, like a personal choice for every person, because some people do
Mhm.
have like especially dreamers who are deported, like we have very close ties to the United States. Some of us have children over there, some of us has wives or husbands, or like really really like yes, my channel will be in English, everything's in English. Hmm. We have very close ties to the United States, so yeah, like I'm not promoting violence nor terrorism nor anything. What I'm promoting is that the United States has to take accountability. Like I am against like any form of violence and terrorism. Like I believe that the United States can be able to be a good country. Like they could use their power for good, but unfortunately, there's a lot of racist people over there, and they're the ones who have control of the country. Like we don't have control of the country, even though you could say that Latinos are like the largest minority group. Yes, we're a large group in the U.S., but we're not the ones in control of the United States. Like if we were the ones who have
Mhm.
control of the government, it'd be very different. Like the world would be a much more fairer place. People wouldn't be immigrating. People wouldn't be dying at the border. The United States has more money. They have a lot of money to go drop a bomb in Afghanistan or in Hiroshima. They have money for that, but they don't got money to feed the poor. They don't have money to make the world a better place so that people don't have to leave. You know, and yeah, and that's
Wow.
basically what my channel is
Well,
gonna focus on.
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank you so, so very much, Fernando.
Uh-huh.
Any last words for dreamers? You can send out that message in Spanish if you like.
Well, I think that dreamers that are still in the U.S., what they could do is that they have to, like, it is the United States has a moral obligation to help undocumented immigrants because they ruined our countries. And instead of dreamers like saying, "Oh, I'm very American," it's probably like a lot better for them to say, "Look at all the injustices you caused in my country. You, the U.S. government, have a responsibility to be able to take care of me and to give me citizenship because you ruined my country. You went in there, you installed the puppet democracy. You went in there, you invaded my country. You went in the United States also trained the cartels, but they don't want to take this accountability. And the only way for there to be change is for people to take accountability and to know what's going on. And yeah, that's basically how I want to end things with.
Mm,
I mean, I hope I
wow.
didn't. I don't know.
Well, no, you did an awesome job. You were yourself, and you spoke some big facts. I mean, you didn't rub me wrong. I really enjoyed having you on the show, and look forward to us doing more work together. Mexico meets Haiti. Continue applying yourself into your community, teaching others. That's all we can do.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Marie. I I feel it was like,
Oh, you welcome my.
thank you for everything. And yeah.
Okay, you welcome. So you all, just want to thank you all. Hold on a second. We have some questions. I think. Hold on. I think Haitian people must learn to make big things happen with the little they have. Very true. Miss Miss Drea 68, I agree. I'm a US citizen living in Maryland. Wow. So you all please check out his channel. Let's show him some love. He just started YouTube about a week ago. Very intelligent brother on a mission. Being a YouTuber, I know many of you all that watch us know just how hard, but it is very hard to get to that 1,000. And it's like you working and you working, you working. Definitely, he needs great people like you all. I know my audience is great audience, very intelligent audience that's gonna be there, that's gonna support. Let's get this brother to the 1,000 subscribers that he needs to be monetized. And definitely Life in Haiti gets a copy of that book, right?
Yeah, for sure. Once I get it published, you'll have a signed copy. And like with my gratitude for having me on the show and helping me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. You welcome, my brother. Shay Reed say there are no longer black communities in America. Time has changed. Very informative live. Thank you all so much. Mr. Silverado says, I just subscribed. Wow. You got some people that went over there. Great guess, great knowledge. All right, you all. Thank you all so very much for the love. I want to thank you all and thank you all for being patient. As far as my internet has been giving me problems, and I'm getting ready to pack out and head out, you all, and I'll definitely take you all with me. So I just want to thank you. This week was a week I was hosting. So some of my plans I had to put them back so that I could welcome my guests and make myself available to my guests who had came to Haiti. And I thank God too for that visit. I want to thank each and every one of you all. Please definitely share this video. You all have a blessed night, and look forward to seeing you all out in the field soon. Aaron says I missed it. You'll be able to watch it. Anyone that missed the live just coming in, I definitely will let the live stay on so you'll get to go back and do a replay. Thank you all so much for your continuous love, for your continuous support of Life in Haiti. And don't forget you all to check out my brother Fernando channel, Mexico meets Haiti. Let's bring the whole world. Let's all make one international community who has been returned back to their country, share ideas, and definitely make the world a better place. One thing I give to the US, whether we like it or not, and I'm going to leave with this message, okay? For the many who are watching or who will watch this live, take advantage of the opportunity to get an education, to be able to inform yourself, okay? Do not take your status for granted. I'm going to leave this one thing because your story automatically took me to this. Parents, you must teach your kids from when they come out of the crib about their immigration status. Children like Fernando did not have a choice. They traveled with you through the hardship, through this, which is an awesome thing. I understand being an immigrant child myself, the sacrifice, the love is put in it to get your child out of these countries, right? But once you get us where you want, where you finally have that peace of mind, have conversations with your child, talk to them, explain to them where they come from, explain to them their immigration status, continuously beat it into their head, okay? So that they can know that they are no better than any one of us who are around the world with similar stories. They don't want this to happen. America grants us opportunities that many other countries on earth do not grant to us, okay? Take advantage of that opportunity because you never know what life holds. Life is about 1 minute you up and the next minute you are down, okay? So keep pushing and don't forget where you come from, definitely. Thank you so much, Fernando. You all have a blessed night. See you all tomorrow. Till next time.
Good night. Have a good day. Thank you for having me once again. All right.